All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Greatly appreciate all your time on a Friday. And I'm thrilled to introduce Dr. Yao-Yi Fu, who's going to deliver our April ETI webinar. And Yao-Yi is just passionate and is an expert around cultivating this global mindset for our students and really promoting intercultural education into our curriculum. So it is my pleasure to introduce her. Yao-Yi's been with the department 17 years. Is that correct, Yao-Yi? 17, 18 years now?
Yeah, I think you're correct. About 17 or 18.
Yeah, the years just kind of start to run together. But she's been a valued member of our faculty for a number of years. And I'm thrilled to have her today just talk to us briefly about her views on cultivating students' global and intercultural mindset. So Yao-Yi, I'm going to pass it over to you. And again, thanks everyone for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, Amanda. So let me show my PowerPoint slides. So my topic is about cultivating students' global and intercultural mindset in tourism and hospitality education. So why does it matter? It matters a lot because of two main reasons. The first reason that it matters a lot is that we are facing many global challenges, big challenges, and those are also very complicated. So right now we have the COVID-19 pandemic, we got climate change, and we also have cultural, racial, and political conflicts, divisions, not just in the US, but also around the world. And all those challenges are very daunting. And there's no one country can deal with any challenge alone. All those challenges require global collaboration and solutions. There's a prominent international policy advisor whose name is Simon Anholt. He pointed out that a lot of global challenges that we are facing now need a lot more collaboration, because for a long time, the whole world focuses a lot on competition. We like to compare countries, rank countries based on power, money. And he feels that besides competition, which will always be there, and by the way, competition is not always a bad thing. Competition can be a good thing. However, if we keep focusing only on competition, this world will not be sustainable. So Simon Anholt suggested that we need to educate people more about global challenges, global issues, because not only those require a lot of collaboration, but we also need to infuse important values, humanity, and ethics in education so that our future generations will care about humanity and make positive contribution to the world and are interested in reaching out to people from different parts of the world. So that's the first main reason why this matters. Another reason is that global workforce has become very common, especially we are talking about the tourism industry. So our students who will be working in the global tourism industry are quite likely to work in international settings, even at home. So it's likely that they will be serving travelers, guests from different parts of the world who have different expectations, different preferences, different behavior, and different reactions to your products, to your business. What do we do about that? Also, our students will be working with co-workers, supervisors who come from different cultural backgrounds as well. So this global workforce that's becoming more and more popular shows that we need to pay more attention to global and intercultural mindset, because there might be times that you need to adjust your management style due to different cultural backgrounds that your employees or your customers have. For instance, in certain cultures, people are more used to direct communication. But in other cultures, people's communication can be more implicit. For example, in certain cultures, people like to avoid negative comments or rejecting somebody or rejecting an idea. So in that situation, people would rather come up with an excuse than saying no directly to somebody. So that's just one example that shows that we have to pay more attention to different cultural differences and be more sensitive about those situations. So a very relevant topic about global workforce is intercultural competence. And I believe intercultural competence is very important for our students to develop. And it's not just for the workplace. I also believe that intercultural competence is very beneficial for our personal life. So today I want to address this concept um, for several minutes. So this concept was developed by many scholars in the field, and I want to share with you one conceptual framework that was developed by Dr. Deerdorf. So Dr. Deerdorf has studied this field for a long time and has published and presented this topic extensively. She wrote many books and articles about intercultural competence. Based on her extensive research, she discovered that there are many important elements of intercultural competence, which I'm showing right now. So there are about 14 intercultural competence elements of that we need to be aware of and try to develop. So I would like to address some of those, at least one of those, to give you an idea about the importance of it and also the profound consequences of having those elements of intercultural competence. So first of all, let's take a look at openness. Openness is about opening to new or different things, right? And those new or different things can be information, can be values, beliefs, ideologies, experiences, or different ways of life, you name it, all kinds of different things that we might want to open to. So I found this element regarding openness to be incredibly profound and also challenging. Um, how so? I think um, opening to new ideas or different values, beliefs can be easier to say than done. And here's why. Let me share with you my little story. So there's a Asian restaurant that I've been to many times. Um, and one day I opened my fortune cookie after I finished my meal, and the paper in the cookie says, eat something you never tried before. And it was funny because I've been to this restaurant many times and I always ordered the same three items. I never change. I always order the same food at this restaurant. So I was like, wow, this fortune cookie knew me. How do you know? I eat same thing all the time. So it's kind of funny, but it also got me thinking about why don't I try different items from the menu, right? So I think what the cookie tried to tell me is this: new experiences await on the horizon. So why don't I try new food? So I think openness can be challenging because it involves many emotions at times. Um, Emotions such as fear, frustration, or even anger. How so? So I think sometimes we have fear of trying new things or different things because it can be risky, right? When you try something new for the first time, you don't know what will happen. So it can be a risky thing to do. And sometimes we would rather stay with the same old things, same old ideas, or same old behavior instead of trying something new because it's risky. And we know that um, trying new things can lead to failure. And sometimes we want to avoid that. So we don't try new things, right? So that's one emotion that we might have regarding openness, that we have fear. The other thing is that um, it's something to think about. Am I open to unpleasant situations or unpleasant comments, right? I think we can be quite ingrained in our culture, and our culture comes with values, beliefs, or ideologies that can be very, very difficult to change. So if you think about a lot of issues that have been debated in the US, such as um, abortion, um, gun control, which reminds me about the shooting that happened last night in Indy, such a tragedy. Those issues can tie with people's values and beliefs, which are very difficult to change, right? So that's one challenge about openness. Are we open to rethink our values and beliefs? Are we open to listening to different values and beliefs? Are we open to having a conversation with people who have very different ideas from ours, right? And those kind of cases may not be always pleasant. Sometimes it actually can be very unpleasant. Um, so that's another challenge. But I think this is quite needed. Openness is really needed, not only for our personal life, but also for our careers. So for instance, if you run a business, are you open to customer comments? So if you get good positive comments, great. But what about negative comments about your business? Are you open to listen to different opinions that come from your customers? So yeah, if I see bad comments from my customers, which might hurt my feelings, however, if I open to those negative comments, it's actually a teaching opportunity, a teaching moment, an opportunity for myself to improve my business, right? So it can actually lead to something great if I'm open to negative information or comments. So that's another example of how important that openness is. But again, I think openness can be challenging, but it's something good to keep in mind that this world needs a lot more openness for sure. The next one I would like to mention is tolerance for ambiguity. I think it's an interesting element of the competence because I think ambiguity is something that we all face quite often, actually, for many of us. So, for example, if you travel to a country for the first time where people don't speak the same language, and the culture is quite different from yours, you are going to face a lot of ambiguity, right? because there will be language and cultural barriers in that situation. Or if you start a new job in a new company, you'll be facing new customers, new co-workers, new supervisors. A lot of things are new to you. So there will be ambiguity in that situation as well. So how much can you tolerate regarding ambiguity? So I think ambiguity is interesting because I think for some people, it's actually exciting because this might give them a sense of adventure. Um, but for other people, ambiguity can cause a sense of uncertainty um, because they are not sure about how to behave or what to say in an ambiguous situation, right? So it's something to think about because I think if we have a higher level of tolerance for ambiguity, I think it helps us to come up with solutions, take some time, think about what to do, and go from there. The next important one I would like to mention is withholding judgment, which also very critical. So withholding judgment is very important because we need to keep in mind that before we jump into a conclusion, we might want to take some time first to do some research before we make a judgment, because we might have bias, stereotypes, or previous experiences that can be narrow or even narrow, that will influence our judgments, right? So keep in mind that we have those that might lead us into making incorrect conclusions or judgments. So I think there might be times that we need to take some time before we make a judgment, take some time to do some research, think over the situation or the issue before we make a conclusion about somebody, something, or a situation. Now let me jump to empathy. Empathy is very essential for us who work in the tourism industry because this has a lot to do with customer service, right? And actually, there's a different concept, a relevant but different concept called compassion, which I even like more than empathy. Because I think compassion, based on what I have learned, compassion has more emotional connections with people. So if we have more compassion, I think it helps us to do a better job with customer service. Because in this business, we might get special requests. There might be problems that your customers tell you. So what do you do with those special requests or problems? I believe that if we have more empathy or compassion, it helps us to think of those requests or problems from customers' point of view. And if that's the case, I think we are more willing to reach out and we are more willing to help, and understand that this is actually an opportunity for us to take care of our customers and also to show our commitment in customer service if we have empathy and compassion. Without empathy or compassion, when there is a special request from a customer or when your customer tells you that he or she is having some problem that needs some help, you might feel that it's more like a trouble instead. So that's why I feel empathy is very, very essential for the tourism and hospitality business. Next one I would like to address is skills to listen, observe, and interpret. So we hear things all the time, but it doesn't mean that we are truly listening. I think there's a difference. So I think these skills actually come with some other elements that I mentioned earlier. Um, there might be times that you want to withhold your judgment first, and truly listen to people, right? And also show respect, um, have some curiosity, um, to find out more information. So skills to listen, observe, and interpret is very important, because if we don't listen and we just talk and talk and talk, there will be no true communication, true two-way communication with somebody, right? So those are some elements of intercultural competence I would like to address today. Hope that gave you some ideas about this important competence. And one thing I would like to point out is that all those elements of intercultural competence intertwined among themselves tightly. Um, for instance, if we encounter a situation that we are facing somebody who has very different opinions from ours, what do, right? So if you are going to have a conversation with somebody who has very different opinions and attitude, obviously you need openness, you need curiosity. We can be curious about why that person think differently, right? Why is that? Why is that so different from mine? We also need to show respect, mutual respect, and we also might need to withhold our judgments first. Um, and also empathy and compassion will be very helpful in that situation. So in this case, you can see that many elements of the intercultural competence are closely related to each other and they come together. We need to have many of those elements or all those elements at the same time to demonstrate our competence and to make a situation better. So now I would like to share some of my experiences with cultivating students' global and intercultural mindset. So years ago, my department offered a study abroad program in Kenya that I was involved. And that was an amazing experience for me and my students. So for 2 summers, I brought students to Kenya to do study abroad. And the main component of the program was that we helped the region in Kenya called Rift Valley to develop tourism projects that help them to bring in, create new jobs and create more income. So for that project, we work with a tourism management school in Kenya of Moi University. So those tourism faculty and students brought us to meet with many local communities, which was very helpful because we went to many places where tourists don't normally get to. But because of our local connections with the tourism school there, we were able to visit several local communities to listen to them, to understand their needs for creating new economy with tourism, and also understand their challenges in life. So there were a lot of conversations that we had in Kenya that helped us to learn a lot about the culture in Kenya. So that was a wonderful, very valuable, because as many of us know that travel can be one of the best ways to learn about different culture, learn about different ways of life. But we also understand that not every student has the budget and the time to do study abroad. So what have we done? We try to offer international experience to students right at home. So I've been lucky to teach this class called Global Tourism Seminar regularly, that I embedded global experience in class. So my department has a long time collaboration with a tourism school in Slovenia, a beautiful country in Europe, that years ago we decided to have a joint class. So starting in 2012, I, my class connected with a tourism class in Slovenia every fall semester via video conferencing technology. So you can see what it looks like in our classroom. So we have two TV screens in the classroom. One shows the classroom in Slovenia, and the other one is a screen that we take turn to show our desktop on our computer. So we take turn to lead discussions about global tourism topics. We also cover a lot of cultural topics. So it's been wonderful because not only that, we also have done other things that help students to interact. So we have paired students from both sides, and we ask them to ask each other some cultural questions. So you can see some examples of the interview questions my students used in the past. So we ask them to think about stereotypes of their culture and things that they think people misunderstand about their culture, and also things that they would like other people from other cultures to know about. So this kind of interview can be quite profound because those questions can lead to a lot of conversation about themselves, how they are viewed, how they want people to view them. We also use a social media platform called course networking for students to connect because the time spent in classroom can be quite limited. So we want to expand the interaction beyond the classroom. So we use social media platform called course networking, which is for college education. So if you are familiar with Facebook, it's kind of like Facebook that is there's a wall on the page where you can post text, videos, pictures, and posts. So it's been great. It's very interesting because we talk about different topics there. Some are more serious. We talk about global tourism issues. We also talk about something fun, everyday things like food, music, art, sport, college life, etc. And I found that students truly enjoy sharing their culture with each other. So here's one example that just happened a few months ago. So there's a group of students in Slovenia posted this on the CN site. So what they did was that they collected many traditional Slovenian recipes, and then they told us that if we scan the QR code from the post, we can access to those recipes and learn more about their food, which is so sweet that it did for us, and it shows that students truly enjoy the friendship that they develop through this experience. Besides those global experiences, I also try to come up with topics that help students to see how things are connected from around the world. So I try to talk about globalization with examples that everybody can relate to, such as food. So here we have two things, California rolls and fortune cookies. So those two things may seem to be very Asian to us, but they are also very American. So California rolls, based on the name, you can tell that it has a lot to do with California, right? And it's true that those type of sushi was invented in California with ingredients like avocado, which is not a traditional ingredient for Japanese for making sushi. This is kind of like American thing. But it's interesting that a few decades ago, California rolls made their way back to Japan. So now California rolls that were invented in the US can be found in some places in Japan nowadays. And fortune cookie is also quite interesting because if you go to Asia and if you visit a restaurant there, you are not going to get a fortune cookie. So if you don't be disappointed because fortune cookies come from America. So I am from Taiwan, a island country in Asia. Before I came to the US to study as an international student years ago, I never touched seeing a fortune cookie in Taiwan. So after I came here, fortune cookie was a new thing to me because we don't have those. Fortune cookies were invented in California a long time ago. It's funny that I remember years ago when my dad came here for the first time, I took my dad to an Asian restaurant, and when he got the fortune cookie, he popped the whole cookie into his mouth, not knowing there's a piece of paper inside. And he went so fast, I did not have time to stop him. But anyway, that shows you that fortune cookies is actually not from Asia, it's actually from the US. So this example shows you that there are different cultures that come together and they become something else, they evolve. Culture can be very fluid, right? It changes all the time. And I think it's a beautiful thing that we have different cultures that come together that got us to experience new things, different things. Another example that I mentioned in class in the past is music, because I'm sure that a lot of people listen to music and love music a lot. So on this slide, you can see a musician. Her name is Rhiannon Giddens. So I learned about the history of banjo from her. So this musician plays banjo very well. And as you know that banjo is an instrument that has been used a lot in music such as bluegrass and country music, or old-time music in the US. So what I learned about banjo from her is that this instrument that has been associated with certain types of music and been associated mainly with white musicians actually has African roots. So she mentioned that long time ago when the African slaves came to the US, they used gourds to make instrument to play music. And that has been done in Africa for a long time. So those African slaves brought the technique to the US. So they used gourds to make instruments and play music. And the European settlers adopted and adapted the technique, the instrument, and over the years it evolved into the banjo that we know nowadays. So that's another example that shows you that how different cultures come together, and I think it's a beautiful thing. So those are examples that I try to discuss with my students in class that show students how different things or different places around the world are connected and work together, come together. A while ago, I came across a blog. So the blogger is Prince A. Sanders. He's a manager of a hotel in New York. And on his blog post, he mentions that the world needs the essence of hospitality now more than ever. I love this statement. I agree with this statement 100%, right? So what is the essence of hospitality? So according to a scholar, Pezzonti and the essence of hospitality can be defined as this. It means to welcome our guests with warmth and care. It's service with heart, right? So the question is, how do you actually do this and demonstrate the essence of hospitality? I believe if we can develop more intercultural competence that can address um, the point, right? If we are more open to different people, different ideas, different ways of doing business, if we show respect, if we show empathy, compassion, if we are willing to take our time, truly communicate with people, then we can demonstrate the essence of hospitality. And if we think about all the challenges that we are facing nowadays, many divisions among people, it's true that this world needs more essence of hospitality than ever. So yeah, I believe that if we can have more intercultural competence, we can do a better job working in the tourism industry. If we can have more global and intercultural mindset, we can make this world better. Thank you.
Yeah, Yi, I just want to say thank you so much for sharing your expertise, your insight. I know that you work tirelessly, that's not the right word, to ensure that this concept of intercultural and multicultural competence is infused in our curriculum. So thank you for being such a great champion of that. We'd love to have some of our attendees ask a couple of questions. Do we have any questions that can be asked from our attendees? Please put those in the chat.
Yeah, thank you, Amanda, and I welcome all your comments and questions. I'm happy to share.
So yeah, I did want to ask, have you done any research around this and as it relates to outcome-based, and has anything really kind of stood out to you around any of the research that you've also done?
Sure. So I have tried to ask my students to have deeper thinking about intercultural learning and intercultural competence. So in my global tourism seminar class, pretty much every semester I have reflection assignment that I ask my students to reflect on those topics. And I have done this in different ways. So for instance, this semester, I share with them a radio talk from NPR, which is quite fascinating. So that episode is part of a show called 1A every morning, and the show is about plantation tourism in the U.S. So as you know, that plantations involve slavery history in the U.S. Um, so the guests of the show came from several plantations, and they talk about their challenges of offering tours at plantations that mention the slavery history. So there were several challenges that they mentioned. That is, some people feel that there's not enough of information regarding slavery history. They want to learn more about it. At the same time, there are also guests who don't want to hear about the slavery history at the plantations. Some even commented that this kind of topic only further divide people. So I found it quite fascinating because you can talk about this a lot. There's so much to think about, right? Why is there such a sentiment that some people don't want to hear the slavery history at plantations? So like for this semester, I shared that radio show with my students. I asked them to listen to the whole show and think about the elements of intercultural competence that will help people at the plantations to manage those challenges, and also think about the intercultural competence that visitors need in order to have a full experience when they visit a plantation that involved slavery history. So that's one example of something that I've tried to help students to think about the topic. So over the years, I have done many different kinds of reflections regarding this, and I have shared some of the results in publications and in presentations. So yeah, I have tried to share information with people. I think perhaps educators need to think more about the topic and think of a way that helps students to have deeper reflection, and also think of how this can help them regarding their careers and personal life. Yeah.
Fantastic.
I hope that helps.
Just look at some of the comments here too, and I know there's other faculty members kind of working on. Sunwon is talking to us a little bit about his work with the South Korea study abroad program, and so we've got a couple faculty members who really have some interest in this. And again, just ways, maybe we can give some ways we could collaborate with some of the sports management faculty, and again, just ensure that this is cultivated just across our department. I think it's so important. I think it is just a critical piece for us in higher ed. I think this makes us stand out from, offering an associate's degree or even some of the other hospitality programs around the world. So this viewpoint and this lens, it needs to really be one of our priorities as a faculty. And also, again, just if we're building global citizens, and that should be our hope as educators, that our grads come out as global citizens, this should be on our.
I agree, because I think intercultural competence not only is very helpful in intercultural settings, but also I think even in a situation that you just interact with people from the same culture, we still need many of them, right? We need more compassion, we still need more respect, we still need better communication. So I think it's something that we all need. And Dr. Deardorff mentions that it's a never-ending process. We can always get better. It never stops because there are so many different ideas, different people, different opinions, different situations that we need the competence to help us to behave and interact appropriately and effectively. Yeah, so I see a great potential for us to do more for sure, and different faculty members. I would love to work with more of people from here and from anywhere else. I think there's still a lot that needs to be done for sure.
Well, Yao-Yi, I just want to thank you again for sharing this. And I have to be honest, the whole fortune cookie thing was a surprise to me. So I'm going to make sure I do a little bit more of my cultural research before I dive into another fortune cookie. But I thought that was a fantastic story. And I guess I would have never thought about that being an American addition to these meals. So again, keep us honest and keep us informed on all these great tips that you have and examples, because they're important for us for sure.
Yeah, Amanda, I'm glad you mentioned that, because there's actually a factory in San Francisco. I think it's in Chinatown in San Francisco. It's a regional place where they invented fortune cookies that open to visitors. So next time, if you have a chance to go to Chinatown in San Francisco, you can visit the place where they make fortune cookies. That's where it all started.
Love it. I'm gonna put it on my list. Well, again, I'll see if there's any additional questions out there. Thank everybody for attending. And we'll be giving some information about our May offering and our summer series coming up soon. So thanks to everybody for jumping on today. Happy Friday, and look forward to getting everybody back together to share our faculty's great insight and expertise.
Thank you, everyone.